There are conversations that seem ordinary from the outside, yet something inside them changes the air completely. Imagine the person you love, sitting across from someone they trust. At first, the conversation is calm. Then your name comes close to being mentioned, and suddenly their voice softens. Their words slow down. They look away for a moment, not because they have nothing to say, but because what they feel is too delicate to throw into the room carelessly. Before they even say your name, there is silence. And that silence says more than a rushed explanation ever could. The person across from them notices the shift and asks a simple question. Why do you still think about her? For a few seconds, there is no answer. But sometimes a pause is not emptiness. Sometimes it is the place where a person is trying to decide whether they are ready to admit what has been quietly growing inside them. Certain emotions are not easy to explain quickly. They need time. They need careful words. They need someone to feel safe enough to let the truth rise. And when the answer finally comes, it is not casual. I don't really know how to explain it, she says, but there is something about her that stays with me, even when everything else keeps moving. That kind of sentence does not come from a passing thought. It comes after private reflection, after unspoken memories, after trying to understand why someone can remain present in the mind, even when they are no longer physically near. As she speaks, memories begin to surface. Maybe it is your voice. Maybe it is the feeling of your presence. Maybe it is some small detail about you that you never imagined anyone would keep in their heart. Often, the smallest things leave the deepest marks. Not the grand gestures, not the perfect moments. Sometimes, it is a phrase you used without thinking, the way you listened, the quietness you brought into a room, or a tiny habit that somehow became unforgettable. Write silence in the comments if you recognize this. The person listening asks another question. Are these feelings serious? Again, she becomes quiet. But this silence is different. It is not confusion. It is not uncertainty. It is the silence of someone who already knows the answer and realizes that the answer is bigger than she usually allows herself to admit. Then she says, "Every time I try to forget, something brings it all back." At that point, the conversation stops being casual. This is no longer a passing attraction. It is no longer a temporary emotion that disappears when life becomes busy. It has survived distance. It has survived distractions. It has survived silence. It has even survived pride. The person listening understands that this is not simply about wanting someone in a brief moment. It is about a connection that has continued to exist beneath the surface, even when she tried to act as if it did not matter. Then she says something that surprises the other person. She does not begin by talking about your appearance. She does not talk about timing, circumstances, or the details of what happened between you. Instead, she speaks about what she feels when she remembers you. Even when she is not around, she says, thinking about her gives me a strange kind of peace. That word matters. Peace. People do not usually describe someone as peace unless that person has reached a deep place inside them. Peace means your presence touched a part of her that may normally feel noisy, restless, or confused. Peace means your memory reached places where she usually carries tension, questions, or emotional noise. The person listening looks at her and asks, "Then why have you never said more?" This time, the answer comes quickly. Some things feel too important to say carelessly. And that answer reveals more than she may have intended. There are feelings people protect not because they are weak, but because they matter too much. Sometimes a person stays quiet because the wrong words feel dangerous. Not because there is nothing there, but because what is there feels too meaningful to risk damaging with a careless confession. Then comes a sentence that changes the direction of everything. Sometimes I wonder if she understands how much she changed the way I think. Hold on to that thought. You may never have noticed the exact moment your presence began to affect her. You may not have seen when your words, your energy, or your way of being began to create a place inside her heart. But for her, something about you became unforgettable. You were not simply another memory. Something stayed. Something went deeper than an ordinary encounter. The person listening smiles gently and asks what she is afraid of. For the first time, her voice becomes quieter. What I feel may be bigger than I planned. That is not a random statement. When someone says their feelings became bigger than planned, it means your importance grew beyond what they expected. It means something that began softly did not stay small. It kept developing in the background, even while they tried to explain it away, ignore it, or keep it under control. And once again, your name returns to the conversation. This time, she says it with a different softness, almost as if speaking your name creates a new emotional atmosphere around her. Then comes one final question. If she were here right now, what would you say to her? Again, silence. But it is not an empty silence. It is full of emotion, full of memories, full of everything she has been carrying alone. Finally, she answers with a truth she has clearly held back for a long time. I would probably tell her that she matters more than she realizes. That is the sentence that remains long after the conversation ends. Because some words do not disappear once they are spoken. They continue to live inside the person who said them, and inside the person who heard them. They carry weight because they come from a place that has been waiting a long time to be acknowledged. The listener asks gently, "Do you think she would ever understand all of this?" There is a brief pause. "Probably not," she says, "because I never show how much of it I keep inside." That one sentence explains something important. Not every feeling is obvious. Not every emotion comes with a clear expression or an open confession. Some emotions stay hidden because the person carrying them is still trying to understand what they truly mean. Some truths remain behind silence because silence can feel safer than revealing everything before the right moment. But hidden feelings still find ways to show themselves. They appear in the pauses. They appear in the way someone looks away after your name is mentioned. They appear in the softness of their voice. They appear in the memories that return without permission. Before the conversation ends, one last thought slips out. It wasn't planned. It almost sounds like she did not mean to say it. Then she adds, "If she knew everything I have shared here, she would understand why letting her go and trying to forget her was never easy." No one responds right away. Some sentences are so complete that anything said afterward would only make them smaller. Write truth in the comments if this touches you. The conversation should have ended there, but it does not, because the deepest truth has not fully surfaced yet. Even after the room becomes quiet, the words remain alive inside her thoughts. Later, when it seems like everything is finished, she does not leave immediately. She stays for a few more seconds, almost as if something unfinished is still pressing against her heart. The person listening notices, but says nothing. Sometimes silence gives people room to reveal what they are not yet ready to say directly, and that silence creates another opening. After a few moments, she speaks again, even more slowly than before. "There is something strange," she says. "Even when I decide not to think about her, something always brings her back." This time there is no preparation, no attempt to hide behind another subject, no effort to make the feeling sound smaller than it is. It is simply honesty arriving at the right moment. The listener turns toward her, realizing this is no longer a casual conversation. It is one of those rare moments when someone begins to reveal what they usually protect from the world. A deeper silence follows. And then, a few seconds later, she continues. It happens at random times, in the middle of ordinary days, in simple moments. Something reminds me of her, and somehow the feeling becomes stronger instead of fading. That says more than she may realize. Ordinary memories usually weaken with time. A passing thought comes and goes. But when something keeps returning with the same emotional force, there is often something deeper underneath it. A memory can appear by accident, but a feeling returns because something inside still recognizes a connection. The listener asks carefully, what comes back first? The memory, the feeling, or the question? She pauses. Then she answers, the feeling. And that answer matters. Memories can show up randomly. A person can remember something without it carrying a deeper meaning. But feelings are different. A feeling often returns when some part of the heart still recognizes a bond. It can return when there is something unfinished, something valued, or something too significant to ignore. This time, she does not say your name right away. She looks down. She almost smiles to herself. Then she says, "It is difficult to explain, but some people stay in your mind in a way that does not ask permission. That is different from an ordinary memory. Everyone has memories of the past. Everyone remembers moments, places, and people they once knew. But this is not only about remembering. This is about a presence that enters the mind uninvited, a presence that stays even while life continues moving forward." The listener asks, "What happens when her name appears in your thoughts?" This time, she does not try to escape the truth. "For a moment," she says, "everything else feels less important." That confession reveals more than she may have intended. When someone says the rest of the world seems to fade for a moment, it means their attention naturally moves towards something carrying more emotional weight than expected. Your memory becomes louder than the noise around them. Then, she adds another careful confession. "I started noticing details I never imagined would matter to me." "What kind of details?" the listener asks. There is a small pause before she answers. The way she speaks, certain words she uses, even little things most people would never notice. That response reveals what was hidden beneath the surface. Attention is one of the clearest signs of importance. People do not remember small details over and over unless those details have quietly become meaningful to them. The things we repeatedly notice are often the things that have found a special place in our thoughts. The listener says softly, "You sound like someone who has spent a long time thinking about her." For the first time, she does not deny it. "Maybe I have thought about it more than anyone realizes." There is weight in that sentence. What people say openly is sometimes only a small part of what they actually live with inside. Hidden thoughts can be much deeper than visible actions. A person may appear calm, distant, or normal on the outside, while privately carrying a whole emotional world. Then another unexpected confession comes. "Sometimes I wonder if she can feel all of this, even though I have never told her." That question does not usually arise from simple curiosity. It appears when emotions have become important enough to take up real space inside someone. People do not wonder whether another person can sense their thoughts, unless those thoughts have become deeply significant. Write presence in the comments if someone has stayed in your mind like this. The listener asks one final question before the moment changes completely. If she were here now and heard everything you have said, what would be hardest for you to admit? This silence lasts longer. It is not blank. It is the silence of someone searching through their own thoughts before choosing the most honest answer. Then she says, "I have been trying to act normal while carrying much more than I ever expected." That may reveal more than any dramatic declaration could. Trying to act normal means something inside has already changed. Carrying more than expected means the emotion has gone beyond what she planned, beyond what she thought she could easily control or explain. Sometimes people do not hide their feelings because those feelings are small. Sometimes they hide them because they have become too large to put into simple words. Before leaving, she adds one more thought. And what happens after she walks away reveals even more than everything said in that room. She takes a few steps, then stops. No one calls her back. Nothing interrupts her. She stops because her own thoughts suddenly become louder than everything around her. In that quiet moment, there is no audience, no pressure, no reason to appear unaffected. There is only what she truly feels. For several seconds, she stands there almost reliving every word she admitted, every sentence, every hidden emotion, every truth she finally allowed herself to say. Then, very quietly, almost as if speaking only to herself, she says your name again. And that small moment carries meaning. People do not repeat someone's name in silence for no reason. A name has a different weight when it is connected to a feeling that is still alive. The person listening has not fully left yet. They notice this and ask one more unexpected question. Why do you always become quiet after talking about her? This time, she does not try to hide. Every time I speak openly about her, I realize how much I usually leave unsaid. That answer changes the meaning of everything that came before. It shows that the words she has spoken are not the entire story. They are only the part that escaped, only the pieces that found their way out. The listener remains quiet, then asks carefully, "So what is still left unsaid?" Another silence follows. But this silence is not uncomfortable. It is full of thought. Finally, her answer arrives in a softer voice. Some days, I pretend I am focused on other things, but before the day ends, something small still reminds me of her. It is a simple sentence, but it carries something deeper. Remembering someone during ordinary moments often says more than remembering them during special occasions. Anyone can think of someone when an obvious reminder appears. But when a person comes into your mind during normal days, quiet moments, and simple experiences, it can mean they have already become connected to your everyday life. The listener asks, what kind of small things bring those memories back? The answer comes quickly, almost as if she has noticed these moments many times before. A sentence, a sound, a familiar place, even a simple moment that suddenly feels connected to her. That reveals something important. A connection like this cannot be forced. It cannot be created by trying too hard. It appears naturally when someone has already taken up space in your thoughts and emotions. Then, for the first time, she smiles. It is a small smile, but it is real. The listener notices and asks, "Why are you smiling?" Her answer is unexpected, because sometimes the memories arrive before I even choose to remember. That sentence is too honest to ignore. When memories appear without effort, it can mean someone has become part of your natural inner world. Not because you were forcing yourself to remember, not because you were trying to hold on, but because something inside you continues to return there. The listener says quietly, "You speak as if she changed something important in you." She takes a short breath before answering. She did, even if she never fully realized it. That confession changes the entire atmosphere. People do not casually admit that someone changed them. They usually say it only when another person has left a lasting mark on their life. Then she adds something that surprises even the listener. Sometimes I wonder if she understands how naturally my thoughts return to her. Not because I force it, not because I go looking for it. It just happens. That word, naturally, matters. What comes back without effort often comes from a deeper place than what requires constant effort. It may not be a planned attachment. It may simply be a quiet recognition inside the heart. The listener asks one final question before they say goodbye. If she ever heard every word you said today, what would surprise her most? This time, she does not hesitate. On the outside, I speak carefully, but inside, my thoughts are much louder. That is the truth that has been present throughout the entire conversation. A person can appear calm on the outside, while carrying an entire world of emotion within. Fewer words do not always mean fewer feelings. Sometimes, fewer words mean there is simply too much to explain. Before leaving for good, she shares one final truth. Sometimes the things that matter most reveal themselves through what we never say out loud. And that sentence stays behind after everything is over. Because some truths do not need to be spoken loudly to become unforgettable. Some feelings do not need constant proof in order to exist. Sometimes, the strongest emotions are the ones carried silently through ordinary moments of daily life. And when she is finally alone, something even deeper happens. Away from the questions, away from the conversation, away from the need to explain herself, her own thoughts become the only voice left. In that silence, she realizes something she has been trying not to admit. The person she was trying not to think about has become someone she cannot easily forget. Not because she wants to cling to the past, not because she is searching for a reason, but because certain people leave an impact that continues long after the moment itself has passed. Sometimes, a connection does not announce itself, it simply remains. It appears in memories. It appears in small details. It appears in unexpected moments when the world becomes quiet. And sometimes, the deepest feelings are not the ones we say in front of others. They are the ones we finally admit to ourselves when no one else is listening. That was the truth beneath every word. The conversation ended, but the feeling behind it did not. Write unfinished in the comments if you understand this.